Biography 9, Sun Tzu, the Silent Strategist. Sun Wu, known to the world as Sun Tzu, was born around 544 BC in the ancient land of China during the Eastern Zhou dynasty. His birthplace is debated, with some accounts pointing to the state of Qi, and others to Wu, but what matters most is that he grew up in a world filled with political rivalry and constant war. China was not a unified empire at this time, but rather a collection of regional states fighting for dominance. From this uncertain background, Sun Wu rose to become a figure remembered for wisdom, discipline, and a vision of strategy that would outlast the age in which he lived. The era into which Sun Tzu was born is known as the Spring and Autumn period, a time of deep instability. The Zhou dynasty had once ruled over all of China, but its power had faded, leaving smaller kingdoms to fight among themselves. Armies clashed again and again, and rulers sought new ways to survive and expand their territories. Traditional strength was no longer enough. Victory now depended on strategy, organization, and intelligence. It was in this world, shaped by endless battles and shifting alliances, that Sun Tzu developed his ideas about how wars could be won with the mind rather than with sheer force. Very little is known about his early life, and the silence of history leaves us only with possibilities. Sun Tzu may have come from a family of minor nobility, perhaps one without much wealth or influence, and this may have pushed him to seek recognition through service. Whether through training, observation, or personal reflection, he mastered the art of discipline and planning. While other men sought glory on the battlefield, Sun Tzu looked deeper, trying to understand the hidden forces that decide the outcome of a conflict: morale, timing, deception, and leadership. These ideas, nurtured quietly, would soon be tested on the stage of history. By the early 5th century BC, Sun Tzu's reputation reached the rulers of the state of Wu, a smaller but ambitious kingdom locked in conflict with its powerful neighbor, Chu. It was during this time that Sun Tzu is believed to have written his masterwork, The Art of War, a treatise of 13 chapters that explained how victory could be secured through careful planning and clever strategy. Each chapter contained lessons that went beyond weapons or numbers, teaching instead about deception, adaptation, and efficiency. His text declared that the greatest general is the one who wins without fighting, a revolutionary idea in a world dominated by endless wars. Sun Tzu's theories were not confined to parchment. In 506 BC, history records that the state of Wu went to war with the mighty Chu, and Sun Tzu's strategies were put to the test. At the Battle of Boju, the Wu army, though smaller, used speed, deception, and discipline to defeat the far larger Chu forces. This victory shocked the region and confirmed Sun Tzu's genius as more than theory. His influence over the Wu state made it a rising power, proving that a well-planned strategy could overcome even the greatest odds. It was a triumph that echoed through the annals of Chinese history. The man behind these victories was described as calm, disciplined, and deeply thoughtful. He believed that the most effective leader was one who understood both himself and his enemy. He taught that warfare should be swift and precise, not prolonged and wasteful. "All warfare is based on deception," he famously wrote, urging commanders to mislead their opponents and strike only when the conditions were most favorable. He also compared strategy to water, which takes the shape of the ground it flows upon, reminding leaders that success comes from flexibility and adaptation. These beliefs painted a picture of a thinker who saw war not only as destruction, but as an art of balance and control. Yet Sun Tzu's story is also surrounded by mystery and debate. Some scholars argue that he may not have been a single person at all, but rather a name attached to a collection of military wisdom developed over generations. Ancient chronicles do not always agree on his life, and the earliest surviving copies of The Art of War were written centuries later on bamboo slips. Still, whether Sun Tzu was one man or many, the wisdom contained in his work shaped China's military traditions and endured long after his supposed death in 496 BC in the Wu state. The legend of Master Sun became more powerful than the uncertainty of the facts. Over time, Sun Tzu's words crossed borders and centuries. By the Song dynasty in the 11th century AD, The Art of War had become one of the 7 military classics of China, studied by generals and scholars alike. In modern times, leaders such as Mao Zedong in China and Vo Nguyen Giap in Vietnam used his teachings in revolutionary wars. Western generals, from Douglas MacArthur to Norman Schwarzkopf, also drew from his wisdom. His book reached beyond the battlefield, guiding business leaders, politicians, and even athletes in the art of planning and decision-making. The story of Sun Tzu, whether entirely historical or partly legendary, lives on as a reminder that true power lies not only in strength, but in the mind that directs it.